Sen saisi yhdistettyä tuohon suoraan kameraan tänne. Eli sitä mutta se ohjelma on
Hello, Mr. It has been a while, yes. Can you still remember? Yeah, good. Okay, that's really good.
Did you hug as well?
Yeah, I will do mine. And you didn't have tea. You asked everyone else and not me. Okay. Yeah, I'm the one. I'm the office student. Yeah, and it's me. And do you know that? And normally Lauri starts and then Sinikka comes along. Yeah. It's very hard life. And I still stick around. You haven't achieved.
Somehow.
I try to travel. The east, keep out of the way.
96.
Outside.
Did you phone in from Scotland or from Brussels? Was it like this?
Anna oli huolissa.
I thought you spoke about
It's minus 40.
It's in Brussels.
There's a bit of smaller area was almost minus 30. Well, two weeks old. No, it's really
Cross-country skiing.
I believe it. The slopes are open. But it's very small. No, down is but very
Yeah,
but it's
and the link is correct there on the slide, right? Just copy paste. I think.
I believe because we are
osakunnan huomenna käydään toteuttamassa jotain lähtön ja sauna.
Is this the official secretariat of everything, yes?
Tämä on ainakin ne, joilla eniten työllistetty.
Annetaan sekin olla.
Joo, hei. Riistograan.
Oh, yeah. But that was yes, made. In the whole world. Oh, yeah. So, of course, you know that. And did you go dance? Because there was this traditional ballroom dance.
Sinun somedokumentointi.
Yeah. They were doing karaoke here.
Sinun somedokumentointi.
They were really active.
Okay.
Not very
ulkoistettu se kuvaus.
So wait, that go away.
It's quite hard to concentrate on
Hi, how are you?
From Finland.
Can't get away.
Moi.
No. Oh, wie ijsjes.
No, mutta sellainen niinku, I have like 40 slides.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, kaikki.
Do you want to put
VOA, siis tavallaan olisi kiva, jos oltaisiin näissä kohdissa enemmän asioita.
Niin, mä tiedän, että
Tänne varmaan tulee, että sulla enemmän.
niin, mä tein mitään puoletta hankintaa.
Tässä meni pilkkimään, vaikka se olikin vähän avoimia kauppoja tuolla järvessä.
Se on vähän virtauspaikkoja.
Aika yllättävää. Näin kylmää oli ollut kuitenkin.
Sitä täytyy virrata sitten saa.
Kotoa asti sitten.
Lounasta Alastaro harmittiin sun aivan yhtä. Joo, se on. Mut sillähän siinä kohtaa saa talvi.
Niin. Suomen aurinko siinä naapurissa aika lämmin.
Joo, se jossain missä se oli se oli kevolla oli mitä 39,1 astetta pakkaista. 40 astetta eroa. Pääsee valtaista.
And here's the sun.
voice and the maps and microphone? Maybe I can just make it more bold. And on the screen you just put it on that small paper and the voice can be heard anywhere and it's like everything. And then it's only the slides and then it's like the group of people sitting here. I think that's how it is. But I need some slides. I need some slides. So almost everything by myself. Because I have to move it with the computer.
Good view on the stage.
So, with computer.
Tässä oli suomalaiset koneet.
You don't have slides in it, do you?
Okay, if you can all take your seats, we can start. Can you hear me? Okay, if I can have your attention so that we start. We are a bit late That's why we invited her. Have you tried? Yeah, I think I'm better. I mean, my first performance.
I'm sorry, is it on?
Yes.
Yes, it's
On. You have to speak very close to this.
I think my first performance will be telling over with the microphone stuck here. Okay, I try. I mean, can you hear me without microphone or? Yes. I feel very weird with this now.
How about the viewers who are watching the stream?
Sorry?
Yeah. Who are watching?
Oh, the stream. Yeah, okay. I try to shout in this microphone and it's better?
Yeah.
It's working fine. Okay. So welcome to this meeting, which is the first Smart Village Network meeting. My name is Edina Oczko, and I'm representing an animation team of the Smart Village Network here. I'm together with my colleague, Ed Sorf, who is sitting there. We are trying to animate this meeting. For us, it's quite an important moment. I hope for you it will be as well. This is the very first meeting of a network we just recently set up. So we are actually very excited about it. We are a group of experts and we very much believe we're working with rural development, with European networking, and we very much believe in this concept, which I will present to you in a minute, in the smart village approach and smart village networking concept. So I will tell you a few words about the meeting. It's just a short introduction, and I think I will need to rely on you for the whole meeting, for the rest of the meeting then. So probably as all the networks, or I suppose all the networks, this one also started in kind of from a pub discussion. So it was really the first step. I can share you the details when we have a few more beers. Maybe over a few more beers I can share you the details. But believe it that it just started off like from a discussion. We felt there was a need for a network because there are a lot of discussions about smart villages all over Europe, and we kind of felt that there may be a need for more kind of bottom-up engagement around that topic. So it started off like this, and then we had this idea of setting it up and engaging different villages and village associations in it. We kind of started by contacting a few people that we know, a few villages, a few village associations across Europe, including Finland. And what we found that all over Europe, the people that we contacted that work actively on the ground with rural development, villages and village associations, these are the kind of first countries we approached, but it's more symbolic really. So they all reacted in a very positive way. So whenever we picked up the phone and asked, like, would you be interested in being engaged in a network, and do you think we could do something together about this topic? Everybody responded in a highly positive way and immediately signed up to be a member of this network. So we had a few dots around Europe with very active local people, which kind of defined or shaped the network at the beginning, and that's what kind of kicked it off. So for us, this first set of people were very important, but even more important has been that since then we started to contact, to promote through our partners the network as well. And especially running up to this meeting, there has been a great interest. I mean, this first step, it just happened within a month's time, really, when we contacted these three networks, they signed up and we suddenly had already 10 members. And since then, on our website, it's so far only logos and so short descriptions. We right now have 24 organizations up, but I have a few more profiles with me, which I still have to upload, and quite a few organizations expressed that they would like to cooperate with the network. So we think it's a really great start. There is energy behind this topic, and we want to keep this energy, and really that's one of the purposes of this meeting, to keep going with this energy across Europe. So I'd like to say just a few words about what this network, or what we believe this network is. So we want to make this an open, bottom-up and an independent network, which are very important key words for us in this whole thing. So open means that really any kind of organizations who represent villages, kind of village associations, groups, flags, which we have many here, and we will do an introduction to the participants in a minute. But they can be members. People and these organizations or villages don't have to be smart to become members of this network. They have to have an interest in the smart village approach and to do something about local development, and they cannot do it on their own, but they have to team up with other people locally, or they should represent the community, which is a key thing. But it's an open network, so there is no constraints other than being like if there is a need to represent villages. The other thing is that it's bottom up. We want to make it bottom up. To be honest, if we are just standing here and trying to animate it, I don't think it would work. So what we are really hoping that after this meeting and even after that meeting, people will go home with the feeling that it's worth participating, it's worth contributing to the network, because without the contribution and without your contribution or enthusiasm, it won't survive. I can tell you already this. We are also doing this right now on a voluntary basis because we believe in this concept. And I really think you have to believe in this concept as well, and this cooperation and working together, and then it could work. But we need to kind of do it all together. So that's what we mean by bottom up. And independent, which is quite a nice feeling actually. So it's kind of not an institutional network, it's not connected to any specific funding or any specific European institution or national institution. So it's quite a lot about the network members, how you shape this concept and what we do with it. So we can do with it kind of what we want. Of course, this is a concept that has been thrown into European discussions, and there is a lot of discussions going on at the European level. But essentially what we'd like to do is to shape it ourselves, like discuss what it means to us, what it means to you as village representatives and village associations. So these are first few key messages that I wanted to put forward. And then what we see as an initial mission, and again we kind of change it. What we sensed when we worked, we are based in Brussels, we worked with European institutions, that the smart village concept started off, but there was very little discussion with bottom-up discussion with the people, with the villages, with the village associations. And that's where we felt that there may be a gap, there may be something where some joint things can be done, engaging people on the ground. And therefore one of the missions of the network is really to make the voices of villages heard. We want to kind of try to influence or put messages through at different policy levels, regional, national, European. So if we do this together, and it's a powerful network, I think we can do it quite well together in the future. The other main mission is that we want to enable exchange and cooperation among you, and that's one of the key things we want to achieve. So again, it's very important that you can learn. We don't know what smart is. We have to define what smart is. There is a need for exchange, and what we want to do is not just to exchange about different practices, that someone presents a practice, but really to act upon it. So really to do something jointly, develop a project jointly. Groups may get together around certain topics and do something about it. So it's not, we don't want to focus just on exchanging experience, what do you do, but really to try to develop joint actions between the members. So this is what we see as the two main missions of the Smart Village Network. And then just to conclude, today's mission unit is called the color patterns here. Because in terms of like understanding what smart villages are, we really want to start a debate, a discussion about this with you. Like what smart villages mean to you. Of course, there are some hints about it. It should be an integrated approach, which means that several funds, it shouldn't be focusing, for instance, just on rural development fund, but could engage with other funds, other policies. It should be bottom-up, it should be complementary with other initiatives such as LEADER, and these are important issues we want to discuss today later within a session. So that's one of the key missions. But we really want to see also like what this new smart village approach can add. So we don't just want to discuss like, oh, we've been already doing this is happening everywhere, which is very important. But is there any new added value? Can we fill this new smart village concept with content? Which is one of the key missions of this thing, of the event today. So what's the added value? What new opportunities it might bring? The other is, as I said, is the exchange and cooperation about specific smart ideas. We know that, again, that there are many examples out there. Learning exchanging is important. We want to focus on specific themes, so it's not just smart villages in general. But again, the key mission is to kind of move towards concrete cooperation actions. So not just to discuss these things, not just to discuss the different topics, but move towards something to develop jointly, some projects, initiatives, anything which may be of interest. And here, I just want to conclude that, as I started off, that we really need your enthusiasm during these days. And I think we already have some enthusiastic members. And one of them is surely our hosting colleagues. We do it because we see it an opportunity, and we hope you do as well. And we hope that the Finnish Village Movement is hosting it because they saw an opportunity in this and the Finnish Rural Network. We are extremely grateful because, as I said, there is no funding supporting this network. So we rely on our members and the enthusiasm of our members. So with that, I know it's an old logo of yours, but I wanted to put it up because I think it's so expressive and kind of illustrates what we want to do. So I close it here. Sorry, it's been a bit the speed, but I know about myself, but I pass it on to Patrick, who's actually hosting it.
Okay, folks, really glad to have you here. I think the first smart exercise that we have had is coming here. And it's really happy moment to see that so many of you have been making it through the airports of the very snowy Europe and also snowy Finland, because I know that trains have been delayed as well. So my name is Petri Rinne. I work as a local action group manager here in this region. And we will be visiting a couple of our LAC projects tomorrow when we make the field visits, a couple of closed down schools actually, and how the villagers themselves have been finding smart ways of re-establishing the activities on those closed down schools. We are one of the most peripheral corners of the EU, as you know, also the most rural country of the EU at the moment, measured by the population density, where Finland is ranking number 201 in the whole world global context. But I also chair the Finnish Village Movement Association, and we have been seeing what strength there can be in this union of 4,000 Finnish villages, and what villages can do together. Everything that is ranging from Punavuori village in Helsinki, our capital, where they have 20,000 people per square kilometer, to furthermost Lapland in Savukoski, where they only have 0.17 people per square kilometer. So actually more reindeer than people in those conditions. When you look at our top 5 export products for Finland, you can see that we are also quite rural products. When we are calculating the value, diesel oil is number 1. Much of that is actually also forestry product nowadays, biodiesel. Then second, paper. And third one, surprise from last year's 17, I think, this statistics is cars. So we built up Mercedes-Benz here in a small rural village of Uusikaupunki on the coast, where they have about 5,000 jobs in Mercedes A-series car manufacturing, and shipping them over to Germany. So that can be called a smart business as well. Then sheet metal and sawn wood. So we are very much related and depending on the rural products, on our good infrastructure across the country, and able to create the jobs and our welfare based on our rurality, not only our small urban areas, as you can see on this map. Still we have a lot of jobs in the whole food processing chain, from the field to the factory and to the restaurants. And our fastest growing business at the moment is actually tourism. As you can see here on this island where we are located at the moment, it's called Salonsaari Forest Island, one of the biggest inland islands in the south of Finland, where we are located at the moment here in this resort area. And 50% of the people still live in rural areas in Finland nowadays, as defined by leader method. So 50% of our inhabitants, about 2.6 million people, are under the measures of the leader program. And we have 54 leaders altogether. And maybe those colleagues of mine who are here from Finnish leader groups, you can put your hands up so you know how many of we are from the leader circles in the room at the moment. So we think that smart village initiative definitely is something interesting also for leaders. Something briefly about our Village Movement Association. We are a national umbrella and advocacy organization for community-led local development as the European Commission is defining it. And we drive community well-being and public participation as well. We have 4,000 village communities in the country, also a growing number of urban neighborhoods in addition to this figure. And we have recently been establishing something called Urban Neighborhoods Committee as well. And we think that CLND really is full CLND only if we are able to extend our leader method to urban neighborhoods too. Then we have 54 leader labs on the sub-regional level, and then on the regional level we have 19 regional village movement associations. And I see at least one village development coordinator here in the room at the moment. If kyläasiamiehet voisi myös nostaa kätensä village coordinators, we have actually four in the room, so four of these regional level people in the room. And then we have some key figures that we are following when we are reporting our activities to our government that is subsidizing our work by about 1 million euros per year. The village movement, I mean, of course, leader budget then is a little bit bigger, calculated for the whole programming period. So what is really interesting figure is this, that how much voluntary work value we are producing for this society. It's 6.2 million hours every year. And when you calculate that voluntary work hour by 50 euros, and it's the value of voluntary work in this leader program, we get this figure of 90 million euros each year produced from the voluntary work to the benefit of rural people, but also tourists, businesses, workplaces that we have on the countryside. And then on leader side, hundreds of new jobs, services, businesses, infrastructure projects, and so on created every year. And the organization of our network member organization, we have few members already from Finland in this newly established Smart Village network. We have board of directors, general assembly, as all the non-profit associations in Finland. I have been chairing this organization parallel to my real 100% job in the local action group now for 3 and some years. And we have permanent team subsidized by this state aid, and then a project team that is a little bit bigger than the permanent team. From the permanent team we have today in the room our communication officer, Sofia, is somewhere there doing the streaming. And we have leader coordinator who was not able to come here, but Transnational Corporation coordinator Kim Smetsson is somewhere in the room there. Also responsible for the organization of the next European Rural Parliament in Asturias in Spain later this year, early November. And then our everyday strategic work is divided to these committees. We have leader committee, and we have also the chair of one of the chairs of leader committee in the room, Salome. You can wave it again. You are one of the chairs of the leader committee, my neighboring black manager. Then urban committee, very newly established one, village development committee, and transnational cooperation committee. And just a couple of slides at the end for your advisors. What is being smart? I think we will discuss this idea a lot during these days. Are we already smart in the countryside? How are we getting smart? This is one of the village trip destinations tomorrow. Abandoned school that was turned into an international arts residence. Because some of the people happen to be so deep in these international artists' networks and have been experiencing this around the world. And they came to our lab and said that, hey, we can bring here all the best artists from around the world, from Tokyo to New York. And we didn't quite believe them in the beginning. Can you really do it? They said, yes, because we have access to those networks. And our lab was doing a small subsidy first to show, okay, we a little bit rely on you, but show us first what you can do. And now it's been running there, I think, almost for 10 years already, and we will see it in the Honors tomorrow. But what is maybe more difficult is then to build this smartness in the programs and in the bureaucracy. How can we put this inside our leader programs? How can we put this inside our new CAP searches that are now being performed in different member states. There we really need to be careful that we are not scaring people away, but getting them involved and also getting the results through networks. So with these little words, I just want to welcome you. Maybe we will do some stretching exercise at the end here before I give a mic to Anne, who will represent the hotel today. Because Finnish language is so beautiful. You will be talking a lot, so you need to stretch a little bit your facial muscles. And we can do it by saying hyvää päivää, which is good day in Finnish language. We need to use that when we go to villages tomorrow. Hyvää päivää. Can you repeat this? We have a lot of Scandinavian taste in our language. Please repeat. Hyvää päivää. That's very good. Hyvää päivää. And that's actually quite easy because then when we go to dinner table, you need to say bon appetit, and it's hyvää ruokahalua. We have lots of vowels in our language, so try this hyvää ruokahalua. Yeah, very well, very well. And one last thing is then to say good night. And good night is very short, very easy, and it's hyvää yötä. Hyvää yötä. Hyvää yötä. Very good, very good. So, Anja, welcome, and I wish you all a very good day.
Anyway, my name is Anne, and I have easy name Sporman Zero. My daughter name and my father's name and my married name too. So I show you only a few slides from Ellivuori research area. If we are able to show them to you. No, that's not fine. I can see them here, but you can't see them. This is about Kylät. I have also the edited one. Yeah, it was. We tried this before and it was okay. No, nothing happened. I remember she said we don't have to be smart. And we saw it already. It was there. It's video. Video, yeah. Okay. He's got the magic touch. much now. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Okay, so at first I would like to thank Petri. This is honor for us and honor for whole Finland to get you all here, because this is your first network meeting at all in this kind of, so it's honor to us to be Finland that you've been. I would like to ask how many of you is first time in Finland ever? Not many, yeah, so quite many have been here before. Good. So this is our area. I chose the summer picture because there's a lot of snow now, and you can't see the area what it's in its glory when it's summertime. This is Pirunvuori. It's a little hill, and there's a very nice views and a lot of hiking tracks, etc. So now when I can't see this, how can I change my slide?
Just press the down arrow, it should.
I've never done this before blind, so. This is just to show you that where we are. We are in southern of Finland, and within 3 hours we have almost half 500,000 people. So that's why it's very important to us to develop our area to move on. And as Petri already told you, this is the island, and our area is located in Finland's natural landscape, and it's very important to us that there's also our neighbor is a nature reserve, because in Finland it's more and more appreciated thing that you touch the nature very gentle way, you don't destroy it. And it's very important, especially here, because we have built a lot. We have to all the time take care that we don't destroy anything valuable. How we can deal here is that we have our own network. We have a lot of our cooperative companies who are willing to do this work together. This place has a huge bankrupt a few years ago, and almost all these buildings were collapsed because they were not treated well. And then they had to sell this place, and Marko Mikkola, who owns almost every land in this area and in this island, started to build up this area again. And first thing he did was that he started to renovate and started to build new things. And without our cooperators, we couldn't do that, because what's the place middle in the nowhere where it's just a hotel or restaurant? So that's not the point why people want to come here. So that's why we have step by step building our service network, and these all services are serving people who has their own trust in this place. Nowadays they're able to get, for example, downhill skiing. We have the ski center just behind us. In the summertime there's possible to go subboarding. We have bowl courses actually under this building, and mini golf, and there's a high park where you can climb it from woods to the woods, and you can see it over there. And on winter time we have also fat bikes, and we have tracks where you can go cross-country skiing, and every these things are dealing with those companies that you can do by yourself, or you can buy some guided tour or person who will take you to the nature. You don't have to go alone if you don't dare do that. And within few kilometers there's also Kärppälä. That's a brand new horse center, and we are planning to do tracks for horse riding from here to Kärppälä. It's about 6 kilometers, something like that. Then we have full golf courses, lakeside golf. It's about 10 kilometers from here. Churches are very original in whole Sastamala area. We have very famous ones, and there are tens and thousands of guided tours to our churches, and that's why I took it in this slide too. And the person you will see in the middle of the picture who is hugging a child is our Mr. Kylät. He's sleeping in the middle of the centrum. He has his own house, and the whole house and whole stories are grounded our artist Mauri Kunnas, who has, I think, wrote 35 books, which are translated 32 or 36 languages. So Mr. Kylät is also our friend who's visiting us every now and then and taking part in our events. So we have also something to do for kids. What we want to do here, we want to give people feelings, memories, and have that kind of atmosphere where you can just totally relax. Many things here which have built is made by locals. For example, in this building there are 4,000 kilos iron. The local blacksmith has done everything. Are you going to iron sauna in this evening?
I think we can have a round walk
around
the premises.
Yes, good, because you will see that the nails, which are this size, everything is done by the local blacksmith. And also every carpenters and paintings what we have done local. So we want to choose them to have jobs and works in here in our village. We offer quite many different kind of accommodations. We have villas, we have chalets, we have this hotel where you are going to overnight all, I think. And then we have a camping site, and all these things are able to choose and book from the hotel's reception. So the newest one is a chalet, which was there when you arrived in this area in your right-hand side. So we're building up all the time new things. Well, you know when you travel, if there's bad food, the whole trip is disaster. So we want to put our effort that we use local producers and local farmers. And there are people who are going to forest and pick their berries and mushrooms, and they will give them by themselves to our chef. He picks up what he wants to buy, and we do our menus according to that. So that allows us to do quite lively and do changes almost every day to our lunch menu, for example. We have also different kind of meeting facilities. It's able to have their 50s or every kind of celebrations, have social evenings, and big evenings can be over more, maximum at 650 people. It's in downstairs, and you can also drive the car in it, so it's very useful. Well, we in Finland, you all know that we are very keen on our saunas. I don't know any people who don't have their own saunas. So when you're in Finland, you definitely have to go to sauna. And in our area, there are different kind of possibilities. You can choose if you want to go lakeside shore and enjoy your evening in our smoke sauna, or just take the hotels, pools and saunas here inside, or more bigger or smaller, whatever you feel like. We have several choices to do. We value nature, and that is very important here. When Marco started to build up this area, he decided to use geothermal heating, and our system is, I'm not sure if I'm lying, it's the first one which was used in this size of hotel combination. And it's built up last year. There's also, we're using solar energy, and those plugs for electricity and hybrid cars are coming on next year. So we are plans to do more green values in future. But what we are going to do in future? Because we have new town plans, it allows us to do much more different things, and we don't want to do it in modest way. We want to build here new lodges, new floating homes and hotel rooms, and tiny little cottages where people can have their own yard to do gardenings and that kind of things. The lodge is, they start the buildings in this year, and they're supposed to be 40 to 50 different kind of apartments. And it's going to be over there where they all can have very beautiful scenery to the lake. This is just one picture to show you that what kind of theme days is able to spend here. This is Valkeakosken sudet, wolves from the Valkeakoski city. They did music video, but they also are very keen on having Viking days. So they spent here 2 days to have their own celebrities in Iron Sauna too. I wish you all very welcome to here and have very relaxing, even you have small things to do, and you enjoy your stay. If anything comes up, I hope you will tell to our receptionist or our staff to develop this whole thing more and more better. Thank you and have a nice time.
Thanks a lot for both of you for this introduction. So what I suggest now is straight move into the middle of the smart village topic. So I'd like to ask Lori first to say a few words what's happening in Finland about smart villages, and then we will get to know a bit who's sitting in the room. So first starting with the participants who are not from Finland and what they are doing about their smart village approaches in their own country, and then we will move to the Finnish participants. So Lori.
Thank you, Edina. I will now see where the mouse is. It's over here, now it's over here. While I'm finding my presentation, I'd like to introduce one person in the audience. Sami, there you are. We've just started a new thematic group in the rural network, and surprisingly, well, we've started 2 groups, and one of them is smart villages, and Sami Kantarimäki is the coordinator of that group. So if you really want to know and get into detail what's going to happen over the next 2 years, you can talk to Sami. He'll be here today.
Today, yeah.
Yes. I've shortened my presentation. Let's see if this works. No. You turn it on. We didn't know what we were going to do, so we decided to do something. And I think this very much captures the entire spirit of how at least I see smart villages, because it's the culture of experimenting is going to be very, very important. And animation, of course, comes into play, but the key issue here is for those villages who want to be smart, as we put it today, do something, try something. If it doesn't work, do something else. I've been asked, I don't know why, but to give my input on how to, for example, create national strategies on smart villages. And my answer very typically is, I don't know. But my answer is also, don't create a rigid strategy. Because it's all about experimenting. So when you're standing at the red dot and trying to get to your vision, don't build railroad tracks and then choose, okay, A, B, or C. Because in the smart villages context, in the context of experimenting, this is not reality. This is reality. You are at the red dot and you're trying to get to your vision, but you will have, of course, to plan, but you also have to be very willing to adopt, to make and to accept failure. But the key issue with failures is don't do the same mistake over and over again, because I think on some levels that has been categorized as insanity. But this is the world that smart villages, at least in my opinion, looks like. So we decided to try something, and we love competing. So we decided to start a very smart competition called the Smartest Village in Finland. But one thing we sort of slightly forgot was to plan before we started the competition, but we decided to do something, so hence the competition. At the end of August, I have a wrong number there, we actually have 33 villages or groups of villages that applied to the competition. If you want to run a Smartest Village competition, ask us. We will tell you about what sort of failures we have done, and so you don't repeat the same mistakes we have done. But in the registration, they identify challenges in their villages, whether it was to improve or to maintain something, very typically services. Who are they going to do it with? What are the planned activities, and what sort of outside help they need? What can we give? We had an innovation camp on these local service centers in October. Some good ideas came from that. The competition was planned to end at the end of 2019, but now I've proposed an extension of about 6 months because we've gotten off to a fairly slow start. But the key issue here is that we're not like in the Village of the Year, we're not picking the smartest village now, but we're trying to get the villages to develop something new, and the village that develops the most wins. Don't ask us how we're going to pick the winner. And there you have the geographical distribution, so we have villages fairly all over Finland. There are some places like Pirkanmaa, which is the region where we are now. You have 6 villages in this competition. They're already meeting, having face-to-face meetings and really getting things done. But then we have villages like Kylät there, which is fairly isolated. So now we're putting up these face-to-face meetings for all of them. One of the what happened with my slide? Oh, there it is. We have 33 villages, and they identified almost 200 themes in their applications. This is a problem because they have to choose one. In a period of a year and a half or 2 years, they cannot solve all the problems. So now we're focusing on what is their main task and what to do with that. but the distribution is quite big. Senior citizens and youth. Youth are on the top and also attracting new inhabitants, but when we meet face to face, schools always become an issue, and then that leads to cooperation with communities or the municipalities. Every village is very different. It's a huge positive, but it's also means a lot of work. But what they wanted from us was outside experts and support, but they also need peer-to-peer support, of course, because some of the issues that this village is facing, that village has already solved. Because I get asked a lot, like, how many smart villages do you have in Finland? And I once again say, I don't know. Because we have a lot of smart villages, or villages that are being really smart about how they run their lives, but nobody has really collectively gathered all the good examples. And that is also what they need. But then we come to this question of what is smart, and I think that's also part of why we are here. What is smart? What is a smart village? We all know what smart in itself means, but what is a smart village? And the first example I was basically introduced to was the Ludgate hub in Ireland, which is built around the 1 gigabyte society, very much into broadband, very much into technology, huge effects on the rural town. But it's not just about, you know, infrastructure, whether it be broadband technology. It's not about moving services onto a digital platform. It's about people, as the commissioner has said. But on top of that, it's sharing. And then there's one really, really big thing that we need to create in order to really establish smart villages, smart services, smart digitalization. Anybody want to guess what the big word at the bottom of the list is going to be?
Trust.
Yes.
Frustration.
Yes. Because it doesn't matter what sort of shared mobility or safety or economic or whatever solutions we create, unless there is trust. Whether it's trust in the technology, whether it's trust in your neighbor to let them drive your car or pick up your purchases at the local store or transport your stuff to the post office or whatever. If we haven't got trust, these will not work. And that's why the Smart Villages initiative is brilliant, because when we go onto the village level, it should be easier to create trust, because there's at least some community or a sense of community on a village level. If we create a regional digital solution and hand it top down, the likelihood of it working or being accepted is very small. But with the competition, with the thematic group, we're now looking at how the two can work together, so that if the thematic group comes up with some brilliant experiment, we now have 33 villages. We'll just ask, okay, who wants to try this? I'm running out of time. Yes, I've run out of time. Digitalization doesn't have to be included in SMART. Not necessarily, but the whole Smart Village theme is so big that digitalization is one sector. You have to break it down. Broadband, digitalization, they are both tools. There's just some mumbo jumbo about Facebook, WhatsApp, and virtual villages. I will not go through these cases, but I'll share, the slides will be shared with you. I've used Escola as an example, but what they're really smart about is they run a profitable business in the village, employing 7 people with no project funding, nothing, and it's owned by the village. It covers a multitude of services. But the thing here is they do all these things, and then other villages hear about it, and they panic. Do we have to do this? But the key is, they've been doing this since 1997. So when asked, what do you think of this Smart Village initiative, or of this new Smart Village initiative, they say it's not new to us. But we are here to define what is smart. Does it have to be defined? Yes, at some point, because at some point it will become a thing that we will have to evaluate and measure. Especially if funding for smart villages starts becoming directed, then you have to evaluate both the outputs and the impacts of smart villages. And then you have to evaluate smartness. And then it becomes kind of scary. So I will end up not on a scary note. But there's a lot of slides after this. You can read about Eskola and what they're doing. Brilliant stuff. Welcome to Finland. We ordered some snow for you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Lori. I think it gives a very good taste, and I think again our Finnish colleagues are shockingly advanced to many of us. So actually, both Eskola and Latgate are members of our network. And once we have the database up, I think through other events, we can exchange about those examples, and it's a really great start, what you're doing here, and I think a lot to learn from there. So we want to do now a bit of outlook to other parts of Europe. Let's hear very briefly from different colleagues. I think I told to several of you, maybe if you could come out here, so Ave, so Estonia, if you say a few words, Sonia, I don't know if she arrived, yeah, please, from Spain. Then Nula and Joe, if you could come and say a few words about Ireland. Great Geza from Hungary. If you say a few words. Sean from Scotland. I don't know if he's here. I'm just actually familiarizing myself with the faces as well. So we need to keep this short. I suggest that we do it a bit dynamically. One of you start, and maybe the others could react. I mean, maybe someone could start by reacting to the Finnish approach, if you have anything similar, or if it triggered something, what's happening in your country. Everybody looks scared. You can actually say, like, we have nothing similar to this one. We are much worse off. Yeah, please do. And then I'd like to ask you to react a bit to each other's comments. So pick the microphone from one to another. So this is, or I start with Sonia, actually. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe pass it on.
Okay, hello to everybody. I guess we're the colleagues are coming from the further south. We're really pleased to be here. Sorry?
We come from Krisberg.
Oh,
you're very popular with the photographers.
Okay. Actually, I kind of prepared some very short presentation, but it's okay because.
I can put it on if you.
Are you sure?
I tried.
Well, it was just to give me some support because I'm not sure what to tell you about Spanish smart villages. Actually, Anna and I are coming from the north of Barcelona, which is Catalonia, and we work a bit separate. One thing is Spain, the other thing is Catalonia. We have I believe we cooperate very good with, we belong to a leader group, so we cooperate quite good with Catalan flags, not so much about Spanish flags. So I know that there's this big association which is called ARCA, which who holds all our flag groups in Catalonia, which has been working with European Smart Village group. So there are some of the projects that we're developing that could be maybe in the framework of the Smart Village. There's one project regarding energy consumption and sensitivity about all the companies. and there's this other one that's working, that's taking care of co-working spaces, which help people in rural areas not having to drive all the way to big cities, which in our case would be Barcelona or other big towns. So we're there, but we're still very far away, I guess, from which probably you guys understand about Smart Village. It's just a very short approach. I guess Spain sees the Smart Village as a way to avoid depopulation, so I guess we all somehow see it that way. Of course, we have still a lot to learn from northern countries, so that's why we came all the way up here. But still, Spain is doing quite good on their digital economy and society index, which is good for us. Still, we're growing, but we'd like to be a little bit further. Of course, there's a lot of documents and work that's been done in the office, but I am not so sure that what's been done really bottom up, which is what we're trying to do here. So there's a lot of things being done from the public administration, a lot of money being spent here, but is it really going anywhere? Is it really getting into the people that live in the village? There's a national plan of smart territories. There's a lot of money that's been put there to be used to get there. But my question is, are we sure where is that place? Where is the smart village? Where do we go? Which is maybe we will be discussing here these days. This is just many things that's been done, but this is a little bit our area, so you can put us in the map. We're down there in the very south of Europe. Our leg, which Anna and I represent, is the one with the red arrow. These are some of the projects that we've been to that I talked a little bit. There's this one about energy transition in rural areas, and we're trying to evaluate the cost that's going to be for each municipality or rural area. And then there's this other project which is related to the co-working spaces, which we're happy to find out that there are many of these spaces that have been created, and many professionals that are being able to stay in their rural areas instead of having to move to big cities to work. This is just some numbers that we could go into, but I think that maybe we can just pass.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, just some of the tools that might be somehow in the theme of the smart villages and territories, but that will depend on what we decide it's smart or it's not. So we'll see. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. You just really try to, anyone who wants to react to this, or the Finnish colleagues immediately, or you just want to take? No, okay, I pass it on to Aveda to say a few words.
Hello, I'm happy to be here, and I'm representative of Estonian Rural Network, so we are not village, but I can say that we have basically many smart villages in Estonia, but what we don't have yet is this understanding on and the use of this new terminology of smart villages. But this is very interesting because it's again a possibility to think about this, what is smartness, that this is not only digitalization or broadband issues and everything, like it was said here, that If you have all these tools and you cannot use them, are you smart? What is smart? I'm very happy that we are, again, very impressed and by our Finnish colleagues. So they helped us a lot with understanding with smart villages, and this is we from network side, and also our ministry is also working for future programming. So this word of smart and how we want to develop it. And here, like more two things we can discuss these things, that if somebody hears the term in smart village, then they maybe ask what it means. What it mean? Is it only digitalism? Then I remember the very first leader methods project in Estonia, somewhere before entering EU. And there was pilot program in southeast Estonia, and they heard a word like partnership, and they went and looked from dictionary what it means. Today, most of rural people, nobody wants to have what is mean partnership, but they started like that. So I think that we are to fulfill these new terms. On the other hand, we are thinking and also thinking that actually this is very much the same thing what village movement doing. And there's this very direct linkage. I don't know how it's here, but in Estonia maybe, indeed, they're doing very nice job. Like if you're saying word for younger generation, like village movement, they think it's something like maybe my grandmother is going somewhere there, sorry. But I was presenting some very shortly in the conference of village elder in Estonia last week in Pärnu. I had some very basic thing that my message was that, and we showed this in the contact point video and said that please notice this kind of thing will come. And first people who heard smart village, the first come was the youngest in the audience to came and ask what it is. So I think it's the old school thing in a little bit new dimension or whatever. So I think that all people needs encouragement and again to spread this and fulfill this term in every country, in every village, in every park. It's our target, and of course our networks will help you. Thank you.
Hello everybody. My name is Géza Gelenchev. I came from Hungary, from southwest of Hungary, from a region which consists of very poor, very small, lagging behind villages with quite a rich natural environment, but not much in the economy. It's a highly agricultural area. I'm representing a leg, and I'm representing also a Naturpark, which is a sort of a new formation consisting of 10 villages. Smart village movement or smart village program in Hungary is very lagging behind as well, because it became unfortunately a very political issue, because the idea is coming from the EU and it was picked up by left-wing politicians, and then there is a response now from the right wing. We have a right-wing government, and we have a national program on smart villages, which is financing practically renovation in village centers. So it reminds me to old rural development programs. It always reminds me to my army time in the 80s, where someone invented a potato cleaning machine, and any size of potato came in like a small globe with a diameter of few centimeters. So it's something like this, because it is like rural development program in general. it doesn't allow for any experimenting, as Lauri said, which is very important. It's not allowing any failure, and if you have complex ideas, you will get mad about demarcation lines and all sorts of things. And we are doing this, or we have been doing this in the last 15 years. We are struggling with complex ideas and not very successfully. And we also have many, let's say, smart villages or smart ideas, but very few successes for the time being. So that's the status in Hungary.
You should finish with a positive
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'd like to thank Edina and Ed and their colleagues for organising this event, and also our Finnish hosts for bringing us to such a wonderful location, even if they tell me, and I can't evaluate it as my first time here, whether this weather is actually unique or unusual. But it's very different for us, but we're delighted to be here. So I'd like to maybe just give you a simple background on where the Irish situation is in relation to smart villages. And I think it's relatively simple in many ways. First of all, I just want to say I represent Irish Local Development Network, which is a network of 49 organisations, 35 of whom are rural and deliver the LEADER programme. But not just the LEADER programme, those companies also deliver a range of labour activation programmes, social inclusion programmes, and rural recreation, and in some cases ecology and environment programmes as well as some social services and childcare. So there's a range of, I suppose, wraparound supports which the companies are concerned to provide in their localities. So in a way that makes them well placed to deliver integrated solutions. So we're very, I suppose, encouraged to hear a lot of the conversation here about the place of technology. Although we're talking about tech and technology, it's about being people-centered, and it's about cooperation and relationships between people. But just to take a step back to where we are in Ireland, I have to say that in terms of the language and the lexicon of smart villages, this is very, very new to us. If you did a Google search maybe 12 months ago on Smart Villages Ireland, I don't think you would have got any results at all. You get a lot more today, but it's evolving fairly lately. And why is that? The concept, as it's been discussed over the last year, is very welcomed with a lot of curiosity, a lot of interest, and a lot of enthusiasm. But people are asking, what is the added value that it can bring us? What's different about it? And is it a new language, or is it a new reality, or is it both? Now, I think in many ways the language question is interesting, and it's very important, because one of the things which rural dwellers in Ireland have probably experienced over the last few years is a change in how rurality is seen in the national discourse. So rural is starting to become a problem. It's starting to be listed with housing and homelessness and health and drug addiction as something to be solved. So we have two ways of looking at rural society. Rurality as a problem, or rurality as an opportunity, as something different, as something with its own resources. So there's a constant, I suppose, battle, even amongst those who are the providers of rural services, as to whether we're glass half full people or glass half empty people. And I think what the smart village concept does, it is empowering in that it's saying, look, it's not one size fits all, it's not the same prescription for everyone. If you look down at the next village and you find that they have developed all of these things and we haven't, well, we're not a failure, because we have our own unique set of resources which we can build upon. So in that way, I think the cooperation between villages, the looking at villages and rural areas as having resources, is something which the smart village concept can empower us to do. And I think in many ways under the LEADER approach, it has been happening very effectively, but this gives, I suppose, added impetus a new language and a new way of looking at it, and principally a new way of language for those who are involved in, who are rural actors, but also to tell other people that there is positive, a modern take on rural society rather than seeing it as a problem. So I think, like all our speakers, want to end on a positive note. Ireland is very curious about this project, looking to see what's new in it, but also looking to see how it can adopt its own intrinsic strengths and marry them with the wider concept of smart village development. So I think Nuala is going to speak to some specific examples from one particular part of the country. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Joe. My name is Nuala O'Connell. I work for a local development company. We're based in the south of Ireland, in County Cork. And I suppose, as the speakers here have said, it's already very interesting to hear what people's ideas around smart villages are. Your idea, Laurie, for the Smart Villages competition, I think particularly if we look to see, are we looking at the digital side of things, or are we looking, as I think Petri was saying earlier on, about the people and the communities that are involved. And I suppose just to give a couple of examples of work which our organisation has done in Cork in two different areas. And almost as Joe has said, while the formal idea of smart villages is very new to Ireland, I think we find that some of the recent work we have done in the last 5 years, it fits very easily with this model, or it maybe is a model for smart villages. So to give an example, and again this very much looks at the bottom-up approach, the area that I come from, it's an agricultural and a tourist and a fishing area. It's also very close to one of our cities, so there are varying issues and varying issues of disadvantage. So in some cases we're looking at some very small villages which are suffering from that rural deprivation, so we're looking to enhance those areas. These two particular areas that we worked in, they're actually areas with a population of about 3,000 to 5,000. One of them was a seaside and a docklands area, which is now becoming depopulated. Huge areas of dereliction in the area. The second village that we looked at has grown hugely in the last 15 years. The population has quadrupled. What was previously 95% of an Irish population now has a very multicultural population there, with over 50 different nationalities living in that area. So we found that it was key in our smart villages planning to link in with, say, 4 different pillars. As usual, we would link with the public sector, we would link with the private sector, we would link with academia, but I suppose civil society, that was a key part in the planning that we did with these smart villages. CCAD was able to provide a resource, as in people and time, to do the animation within these 2 towns. One is called, and I have the plans here which people can feel free to have a look at afterwards. So I suppose the key parts were speaking with people, speaking with young people, speaking with businesses, speaking with older people about housing issues, a huge range of issues which crossed across the community sector, the economy, the environment. We were also able to put a resource in which were planners, town planners, to look at the physical infrastructure there. And this process, I suppose it continued over maybe a 6-month period. A lot of consultation. It started in 2016, and the plans for each of the 2 towns were developed finally, with the consent and following public meetings of the communities about a year later. So now we find that while leader and that was at the centre of leader, and I suppose the trust that was there with the communities was at the centre of pulling this smart villages concept together. That by having all of the stakeholders at the table, by having your local authorities there, by having other agencies on board, as well as the key community connectors, that now we see in the implementation of the plans. So Laurie, as you're saying, if one of those communities chose one topic, you know, that it wanted to move forward. By making the links in the planning process, we're finding that in hopefully a positive way, those villages are now becoming smarter. You know, they're starting to see this is what our plan was, and they're starting to move that forward and implement it. So I'd be happy to talk to anybody about those two specific examples at any stage. And we're really looking forward to hearing your experiences and what we can learn from you over the few days. Thank you.
Thanks for this. I mean, the main purpose was to have a quick insight into what's happening there. We've got members from other countries. We just couldn't present all countries right now. We've got a colleague from Romania, maybe, I don't know, yeah. He's doing actually his PhD. We can go to him. He will write a PhD about smart villages, you know, that's happening as well. We've got colleagues from Latvia. Yeah, quite a few. We've got a big group, so please approach each other and please talk to each other. Greek colleagues are sitting here somewhere, so we get to know them. Okay, very good. So what I'd like to ask all the colleagues outside of Finland, and as you stand up, to please place a dot on the map, like it's not a perfect map, we tried our best, but so some parts are missing. Petri was telling me Lapland people will be really pissed off. But okay, if you can just place a dot where you are, also the people from Latvia, Romania, Greece, yeah, so that we see who is present in the room. And for a very quick introduction of the Finnish people, I pass it on to Ed. I think let's do a short exercise, yeah? But in the meanwhile, if you just go to that board and place a dot where you are.
Okay, while our European colleagues are doing that, just as well, I just wanted to flag, I think, in terms of who's in the room, John Grieve, who's in the back corner representing the European Network for Rural Development contact point. So he'll be able to tell you about the work that the ENRD is doing, the thematic group that it has on smart villages as well. I don't know if you want to say anything, John, or will you speak later?
Maybe later, Ed?
Yep, okay.
Yeah, I can tell people about what the thematic group's doing and the other resources we've got.
Great, but that's John if you want to grab him in the coffee break. So, as we say, we have the map of Europe and some pink dots going up on there. This always happens, I think. I've been to loads and loads of events where the top of Finland gets cut off of the maps. So is there somebody from a part of Finland which has been cut off the map here who would be prepared to volunteer to draw on the right-hand flip chart a map of the whole of Finland, and we're going to do another exercise of putting dots, because it's going to be too crowded anyway on the whole European map. So would you agree to draw a map of the whole of Finland, including the very northern parts, on that right-hand flip chart? Is that okay? If you could do that now. And then, can I just, Petri already asked people to put their hands up, but could I, if you are representing a village association, lag, or other kind of village group from Finland, could you please stand up? Okay, and I'm going to ask, it might be about 2 to 1. If I could ask you to form groups, if you're not from a village or a village association from Finland, I'd like you to start a conversation with someone who is, because we're in Finland. It's important to take the opportunity to get to know something about the country we're in and the villages in Finland. So please, I think we've got, we delaying the coffee break for sort of 10 minutes.
Or we can go into the coffee break. So the exercise is, you look around, as Ed said, like the Finnish people, go up to the Finnish people and find out about their village or their area and what is specific about it. And I think Ed will interview, so try to remember the name of the Finnish village and the village area, because actually it will not the Finnish people who will report back, a few of the other people from European areas, and believe it's a challenge for me as well, although we are the same language with the country. So go up to a Finnish person, as Ed said, go up to a Finnish person and try to find out about their village, 1 or 2 things why they think it's special, yeah, why is it unique in Finland, and then it can go, I think, into a coffee break, and after the coffee break we will come back. So please, when you talk, also place perfect map. Thank you very much. So if you can place your dot with your Finnish colleague on that map and mark it like when that parties, and then we'll come back after the coffee break. So start discussion, pick a Finnish person. Sorry, we are coaching, you're not allowed to talk to people you know. You have to speak to people you don't quite know. So find out one or two things about their village and we will come back to it after the coffee break. Is that okay?
Tämä on seuraava Suomen ja... Having a passion about it. Essa jäi myös.
Okay, because
firstly show me where you are on the map. My area is
will be strong connection.
Sorry that I just didn't have space to bring decide like where to
asumiseen tai opiskeluun. Suomen asemia projekti taas minne me oltaan kaikki eteenpäin. Se on kaikki pieni sapaa. Eikö näin sopivat vaikka Central sisäasteikossa. 5 vuotta, joo. Mutta tää on bishi niel, kun se taas limoisena, joo. Vēl saticis šeit šodien. Nezinu, kā viņš izskatās. Jā. Karīgi. Nē. Nē. Jā. Viņš bija tas, kurš starptautiskajā platformā. No es var piemeä, koska se on daudz Nu, jag Tas ir viens mazais solis ceļā uz vienu ciemu. Jā, protams, ka tajā mirklī tu jau sevi noteikti nevar saukt par vienu ciemu, bet tā, soli pa soli, tad bet tur jau arī, tā vietējā sabiedrība ir lēnām garā jāpieredz vispār. Bet, protams, ka tas ir nosacījums. Bet kaut kas ir jādara, tieši tā. Nedarot jau, tā arī varam sēdēt.
this one and come back later this evening. How late night can I call you? Not after 9. That's early. Okay, but I will try to call you. Okay. Okay, thanks. So, just hello from us. Someone working a little bit. Special hellos. I work for Leader in Finland. I'm also now the president of Prepare. No. Aris is president of Prepare. Secretary General Prepare. So that's how something like this. And then I'm coordinating the agenda about the Prepare with the here I'm only as a village man. Yeah. I don't have this fancy hat. So I work in a leader group and they also have village ombudsman. So I've been helping villages. Are you speaking Latvian? No, I can't speak Latvian. That's one of languages. We will come to the Latvian reform some people from the
I'm not a scientist. I'm still involved in
okay. And it's making difficult questions for the minister.
Can you please take your seat? Can you please sit down, everyone? Please, if we can start. I always have how we
I don't know whose juice and whose coffee this was.
Great, because obviously networking is one of the most important parts of this whole thing. Okay, if you don't mind, we could start with the next session. We've got 2 sessions ahead. I wait. Okay, so the first one, as we discussed at the beginning, the first one is like to explore a bit like what the smart village approach means, how it can add value, how it's complementary to other things. I think it's quite an important angle that I've got the feeling already that we are a bit uncertain about what it means, but on the other hand, it may open up new opportunities. I think it can maybe create new connections. It may put in a different light different villages and so on. So I think that's one of the topics that we would like to explore with a few people, but then I really like to ask you to be active and ask questions about it. And then we will have a more practical session, which will be very much about concrete themes. And we've got a few people who indicated ideas, smart ideas, in their registration form. So I will ask them to present those very shortly here, and then we will have 3 group discussions around 3 specific topics. And each of you can choose 2 topics, because it will be half an hour and half an hour again, but I will explain that after that. But these are the 2 sessions we still like to have now. So I would like to, one of the key things is like how we are planning to support the smart village approach. I'd like to say a few words about that. Then I will pass it on to John for a few words to say like what the ENRD at the European level, the European Network for Rural Development contact point is doing. And I will ask Kirsten, maybe also already as part of the panel, to say a few things how ILARD, the LEG Association at the European level, support this process. And then we need to find some common points or what, through a discussion, what the added value of smart village approach is. So in terms of our type of support, so one thing is that we would like to organize also in the future with support of our members, such as the support we receive now from the Finnish Village movement. Of course, there has to be local bottom-up interest in this topic. So events with very specific thematic focus, because we really believe that Smart Village, obviously it's a very generic thing. We saw from the Finnish presentation that there are some very specific topics. I think it's increasingly recognized that, especially in the rural development context, it's quite a lot not just about digitalization, but there are many aspects which needs to be picked up. The social angle, the environmental angle, and maybe not just through the lenses of digitalization. So this is one thing we would like to discuss. And through those actions, which we will start today already, we would like to encourage you to get engaged in concrete cooperation, of course, if it's beneficial for you, with each other. So we could find themes where people without us, with us, could cooperate on specific topics. So that's one of the things we are planning to do through the Smart Village Network. Generally, I think it's a quite nice approach we've got, as we could see, and I actually need to pass back to you. It's a good moment now, because we could see that there are quite a few Finnish people here, and I think if we do these similar events, for instance, I was speaking to Liviu about Romania, like that's a good opportunity to start to engage with villages when we go to another country, and I think this is a perfect example. Actually, that's a good moment to pass it on to ask around a few people what they found out. We see a few dots there, so just to capture that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I almost forgot.
Sorry. Yes, I hope all the I hope everyone's put themselves on one of the two maps, or maybe both. Some of the Finnish partners. If you haven't, please do so at some point before you leave. We just wanted to get a flavour of any reactions or any conversations that happened from people that aren't from Finland, who met a Finnish village, found out anything interesting about what's happening there, the particularities of the Finnish context. I don't know if anyone wants to volunteer to tell us a little bit about one of the conversations they had during the coffee break. Kirsten?
Yeah. The tricky bit will be to pronounce it.
Yeah.
So I'll have to stay here so I can call a friend, right? Okay. It's from two villages. One was Nakataja, whatever, and the other one was Hettenmaki. Okay. Together, they were trying to do something with, if we take from the 4 points that Laura mentioned, it was people, and it was support, sharing. So I find that what they were doing was they were assisting especially older people, unemployed people, giving them, facilitating a network, facilitating that they could stay longer in their house because somebody could help them with bits and pieces, and maybe also give them this little push, to believe in the future. That's very much as I heard it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other volunteers? The Spanish or Irish, one of the European partners, did they have a conversation they'd like to tell us a little bit about?
Come on.
Is that okay?
You want to mention?
Yeah.
Go on, Sonia.
Sonia, yeah.
Here I go again. It's okay. Yeah, we've been talking to a couple of Finnish groups. Very interesting both. With one of them, we've talked a little bit about this road project that they have actually quite similar to a project that's already existing in Spain. So that was very interesting. We'll see how this develops. And the other one made me think about something very interesting, which is something that it seems to be becoming very popular. And as she explained that to me, it's a lot about the branding. So whatever we do as a Smart Village project or initiative or something, we need to be able to sell it properly, because we might be doing something very, very interesting, very smart, but if nobody knows it, it's not going to work. So branding might be something that could, because you told me about this project, it maybe it's not something very special or very unique, but they sold it properly, so everybody knows and everybody wants it. So maybe, just.
Can you pronounce the name of the village?
Kylät. No, I cannot. Sorry.
And it's famous apparently for its whiskey. Is that right, Seneca?
Yeah. The best scene in the world for gin and tonic. And
Napoli,
Fridays, Napoli is the village.
Yeah.
Served today by your group, yes?
Okay. And just finally, before I hand it back to Adina for the next session, I'm interested in the northernmost dot. Did anybody speak to the representatives from that northernmost dot on the map? And if not, were you spoken to?
The name was too difficult.
And can you, if not, are you able to tell us a little bit about, because it must be a slightly different context to some of these, to some of the more southern villages, the rural context that you're operating in. Are you happy to say anything?
If I want to say something?
Tell us a little bit about, rural context situation.
Yeah, well, I'm coming from Kemijärvi, from a little village called Ruusua. There is about 500 people living there, or were living there a few years ago. And we don't have any shops or any kinds of services in the area. We have the nearest shop like 30 kilometers, but we have a really active association in the village, and we have really tight community that we really like to spend time together, and we have different kind of events like running events every year, and that is how it goes, that we try to help each other with everything, and we have different kind of tourism sector in that village that we invite people to come there, and because we have the purest lakes and rivers, so it's easy to show what kind of wild nature Lapland can invite people to come, and so the basic thing is that people are together and they are more stronger when they are together.
Thank you very much. I found that very interesting. And I think that shows, some of the complexity, the challenges around, smart village, what smart village means in that context will be quite different to the context. It's interesting to hear a little bit about that, about diversity. If you didn't get a chance to speak to one of the representatives of the Finnish villages, please do so after we've got dinner, maybe after a beer or two. You'll feel we're able to dig deep into those conversations, maybe in the sauna as well. So please just carry on having those conversations, learning, and you never know what might come out of these conversations. Maybe not immediately into a project idea or anything, but it's through conversations like that that ideas spark and people can keep in contact, and who knows where it will lead. So please keep talking to each other and spark that interest. Thank you.
Great. So the idea here is really that we traveled a lot, but hope you will feel it's worth it, because I think we'll kind of learn about a new area, and we will try to do this. That was my point actually on the slide, that we will try to do this to organize the meetings at different places rather than, for instance, in Brussels, which may be much easier to access, more accessible, but then I think it's a lot of opportunity to engage with the people who live in this area and to do this more. So that's one of the things we want to do. As I said already, we are trying to move towards planning some concrete joint actions. And one thing I wanted to mention to you, which we have developed, and it's one of our partners who, again, fully on a voluntary basis developed it. They are called e-concept or e-towns, a village platform, and hopefully that will be a platform where our member villages will upload information. We follow a logic which it's quite small to read, but really that the kind of concept that being smart, it's not necessarily coming from digitalization or not necessarily a specific topic, but it really comes from a process. So if you are able to recognize based on your basic characteristics what are the challenges, what are the assets and opportunities in the area, and on that building smart solutions, and that's kind of already the smartness. It's independent a bit from the topic we are working with, and we'll see in the next session that there are quite a diverse set of topics that SMART could cover. So we are believing a bit in this process, and the database that we have developed and we are now testing with members, it really follows this logic, and it would normally allow well a keyword search function so that you can easier find each other across Europe. So you would be able to search for villages or village groups with similar challenges, with similar assets, or who work on similar topics, or maybe from a specific area, specific country. So hopefully this will be a tool, and we will ask the members to really help test it and tell us if it's worthwhile, if it's good, if it's useful, or how it could be improved. But it could provide us with a set of information which also hopefully helps you to find each other better later. So this is something we are working on, and you will hear more about soon. With this note, I'd like to pass it on to John. John, do you come here, because otherwise people want here to say a few words about what ENRD is doing, and then I pass it to Kirsten and the other people who will be sitting here.
Thanks, Edina. Right, I wasn't going to say anything because an awful lot of the work we're doing in ENRD on smart villages is about the policy end of this activity, trying to work on developing a supporting framework, a supporting policy environment, an enabling environment to help smart villages to happen. And I thought that's probably not what you want to hear. You probably want to hear more about what you're doing, what's happening at the local level. But I come at this not from a Brussels perspective, I come from a local perspective. I live in a village of less than 150 people. It's in the heart of the Lag area that I used to manage, and I see what's going on in the area and what is and what isn't happening. And I can recognise some of what Laurie said earlier and some of the pictures of how complex and difficult things can appear at the local level. However, if I look back over 21 years of experience of leader in our territory, I could now start to identify probably 15 or 20 initiatives in that area that I would say are genuinely smart. So you're starting to see things coming through. Smart doesn't happen overnight, it takes time. And that's part of why we in the ENRD contact point are focusing on helping to put the framework in place that allows these things to happen. That means working with the different funds, it means working with leader, it means working with policymakers, it means working with managing authorities, it means all these things, and then connecting that with people working at the local level. So the main things we are doing is we've got a thematic group working with stakeholders. By stakeholders we mean everyone from the European policy level through to the local level, working with people on how to design and implement smart villages. The other thing we've got is a set of supporting resources which are developed by these practitioners, by these stakeholders, as ways of informing and supporting the development and implementation of smart villages. You'll find those resources on our website, the ENRD website. If you come and speak to me, I can give you a card which has a link on it and so on. What we've got there is a Smart Villages portal, which has a range of resources. It's just been redesigned. There's some new topics on it, so I'm going to read them rather than try to remember them. So there's a section on policy, as you would expect, on strategic approaches. There's a section on research and knowledge, a section on projects and initiatives, so examples of practices. We've got ongoing news, sort of dynamic feed of news and events, and then there's multimedia and video. We have a video which I think you referenced earlier, Dina, which you'll find on that portal. The other thing that we're very active on is on social media, so you'll find us on Twitter around and about Smart Villages. There's a Facebook community of about 450 people now that you can join. And as I say, the web portal. That's all open. It's there for you, and you can access that and use that to support your activities. Okay. So without going into any more detail, that's the big picture of the work we're doing there. But it's all about enabling, yeah, helping it to happen, and it's about beginning to put pieces together. Okay.
Okay.
Do I need this? Okay. I think it's actually I am part of that thematic work group that ENRD are holding as one of the, it was from politicians down to stakeholders, and I'm down here. That is stakeholders, yeah?
Get your perspective.
Yeah, you said two, yeah? And I think in the beginning, when we heard about in Kylät, and I'll just say Kylät is the European Leader Association for Rural Development. Some of the lags may be represented here, might be member of Kylät. It's the European Union for lags. And somebody here said that it's good to be independent, and we try to be independent, so we are outside EU, sort of. We are not the Commission. We normally speak to ENRD. They have close contact with the Commission. They live in their office. They come out in the street and meet us when we come in from the stakeholders, and we share ideas, and we go back to rural areas, and they go back to the Commission. So now we know what one another are doing. So we have members in, I think, 25 countries in and outside EU, and representing something like 3,000 lags. And we are doing exactly what Edina is saying that you're trying to do here. Make sure that we can share and cooperate. Share knowledge, share ideas. How can we do this? How can we do this best? Because we all have challenges. So we have to know from one another and not, what was it said, not making the same mistake again, because it's either very, very stupid or insane. Yes? So we'll try to learn from one another. When we heard about, the first time we heard about Smart Village, we thought, what is this? Is this a competitor to Leader? Honestly, that was what we thought. Because it didn't say that this can be done by Leader. So we questioned, and John knows this, we questioned ENRD and said, what is this? And they said, no, it's not a competitor. Yeah, it can be done with Leader. But it wasn't sort of promoted like that. But in the meantime, we have been talking about that, and if you can't beat them, you can buy them or embrace them. So that's what we are trying to do. And exactly as you've been saying here, what is this? Is it something new, as Joe said? Is it a new word? Is it a new development, or is it a bit of both? And when this, I don't have my papers now, so I can't remember the names, never mind. When they say that we are doing this supporting elder women, people, or supporting unemployed, we know we've done that. I've seen it in Netherlands, we're doing it in Denmark. But we haven't called it smart. We've just been doing it. So maybe by referring to this, we can now highlight some stuff by saying, oh, that's smart. Okay, do you want to do something smart? We'll do that. So maybe that's a way of making it easier to copy good stuff. Because Leader in itself has, as one of the principles, apart from being territorial and bottom-up and all that, what was partnership? Was that the special word, yeah, in Estonia? Was that it should be innovative. Yeah, that is smart. The problem being innovative is that you got to risk it because you don't know whether you're succeeding. And lots of people, when I say people, I mean, because they are people, managing authorities, they want to check that you're succeeding, and if you're not, then you won't have the money. So who's gonna go for this because it's risky business? So we certainly want to support anybody who wants to be smart, whether it's social innovation or it's digital, whatever. It can be any kind, as we see it. Thank you.
Thank you. So what we'd like to do next is to invite some of the colleagues from the room, and if I miss someone, I spoke to a few people. We want to generate a discussion, so you can ask questions. I will ask a few questions, people sitting here, but really to talk a bit about these issues that Kirsten just raised and John was mentioning, and I was trying to raise, like, what's the added value of really the Smart Village approach? Is it just a new word, or can we feel it with meaningful contact? Does it mean renewing something? Is it an opportunity to renew something which has been there, but also capitalizing on what we had already? So maybe I invite a few people. Petri, if you can
come. And now it's the turn for the Latvian colleague, Maris and Madara, if you could come, because I know that you're doing some very interesting projects, Lori, if you join us. George, do you want to join the panel as well? And I don't know if I spoke to, I'm sorry because I spoke to so many people, but if anyone wants to join the panel, please feel free just to come up. It's not a panel, it's really just to generate discussion, so to hear from different perspectives, ideas, and please come in with questions or comments and tell us what you are thinking. So I've got a few questions myself, but then I will pass it on to you, so you have to listen when I'm just running with the microphone to you to ask. So I would like to start with you, because Latvia didn't speak yet, and I know that it's very interesting. I mean, on the forum, and I have to mention Kari here as well, I mean, we saw that there are few labs who are actively participating in this process and try to help villages to pick up the smart village idea. So I think it's a good start, because Kirsten was saying like there should be linkages. So we could start maybe with the positive linkages already, like how leader can be an animator of this whole process, or what new activities it means to leader. And I know there is a cooperation project emerging in Latvia between Finland, so maybe I pass it on to Maris and Madara to say a few words. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Maris from Latvia, and Madara as well. We are from the local action group, and yes, exactly. I believe that in Latvia, we as a leader group, let's say we are animators. We are somebody that is starting the topic of smart villages, because as much as I know, there is no smart village movement or village development movement at all. So we are like very pioneers in this team topic. So yes, currently for us there is two cooperation projects. One is national, and in this national cooperation project we are trying to find the appropriate villages that are willing to be smart. So we are going to help them to develop, to search for solutions, to make smart strategies, and I hope as well practical solutions. And the second cooperation project is international, that is just developing, and thanks to Kari from Finland, yeah, that made a publication in the partners search portal. And that is the start of the project, where we want to exchange experience, search for good examples, and maybe implement those examples in each other country, in each other villages. So basically, it's like study visits to each other. But who knows? Maybe it can develop further. Something more concrete as well. And in this international project, it's involved Latvians, Finland, Scotland, and that's it. Sweden, yeah. So who knows? Maybe somebody else is joining. But currently, that's it. Okay.
Madara, you want to?
Hi, again, I'm Madara. I'm from one of the local action groups of Latvia, and I can totally agree with Maris when he said that we are kind of just at the start, at the beginning of our journey to becoming smart, because overall in Latvia the development planning has not been implemented in such a local level. It is mostly municipalities or national level, and village. The really local level is often neglected. And so, as I hear now, our ideas of cooperation projects are kind of, they could work together, I think, because what we want in our lab is to create a cooperation project that not just gathers knowledge about this smart village concept, but also we can experiment a bit in implementing this concept in specific villages. And I really liked what Edina said, that being smart is in the process, and what we want to do with this project is to try out the process. So not just learn what is the smart village concept, what are its components, but also take a few pilot villages, audit their resources, kind of do some creative workshops in order to start building communities, and kind of gather knowledge. How do we audit what we have? How can we use what we have? What are the smart solutions that we could implement? And so gather all this information and gather practical knowledge from our pilot villages, and then give this knowledge further in maybe like a digital tool format. But yeah, this is the concept of our idea, and I really hope that it will develop further, and we will find some partners here.
Yeah, and I would like to add a few words. So maybe for the discussion, yeah, because I think there is two worries about this that we already told here. First of all is the thing that it's not right bottom up approach here. That is something that I'm worried about, that it's really top down approach here. So that is something that we could maybe discuss. Is it some threat here? And the second worry for me is that when we think about smart and about villages, I have a feeling that very often everything that is happening in the village and done by the inhabitants, it has been considered as smart. Something that I think we should somehow try to define which is smart and which is not. Because you cannot always tell that it's smart every time when the villagers are doing that. Right?
Very good point. All right, at this point I will come back to you all, but anyone has any comments or questions about the cooperation projects that colleagues started or have similar initiatives in your country? Someone from among you? Yeah, go on, please. Do you want? Yeah.
No, I don't need the mic. It's okay. Also, I am from Lapland, and I represent Regional Council of Lapland, so the whole Lapland, not just this one village where I am from. But we have this Agri Smart community cluster, where we have many organizations and associations and different kind of villages inside that project. And we have few aims what we want to do with the villages, that they can be more smarter. And one of them is that we can have like this capital outflow, what they have the villages to be cut off. That they will have much more money that they could use in the villages. And we have investigated that the capital outflow goes away from the villages with food and with energy. So like how they have the heating system, and how they have the all kind of electricity, and also the fuel what they are using. And with these kind of spearheads, we have found out that it's much more easier to go forward, that we can have more self-sufficient with the villages, that they can develop themselves much more easier, to have more services and those kind of things what they really need. But we need to have money, and that's why we need to concentrate first to food and energy, that they can have the money to develop.
Very interesting. Any other comments? Thanks for sharing that. Any other comments about either facilitation, potential cooperation? No? Then I just move on. Or you can come in anytime. You tell me. So one thing is, I wanted to ask Petri actually, because you were presenting. I skipped you, Kirsten, but you can, I know you jump in when you want. Anytime. So yeah, I wanted to ask you, because you said really that you've got a lot of leader organizations who are members, and you have many villages that are members. And I think we heard, and we all agree, I think, and there are a lot of leader groups, that leader can be one tool, one animator of the process. But what do you think the Smart Village approach can potentially bring as added value to the villages, or from that angle, how do you see that?
Yeah, it was actually an interesting point that was raised by the Latvian colleagues, that are we here dealing with something that is a top-down initiative? Actually, it comes from the commissioner himself. But when I'm thinking back 20 years ago, 30 years ago actually already, we also had an Irish commissioner then who initiated the whole leader program. And now we still call leader program something that is bottom-up. So there needs to be some kind of balance between top-down, I think, and then bottom-up. And this is our balancing factor that we are now actually creating this Smart Village Network. That is a network of civil sector organizations and village movements or individual villages who then, through this network, can have a dialogue directly with each other without any public institutions like European Commission, for example. So I think it's really interesting discussion and brings me back to those times that Leader really started. And now we can do the same thing on the village level, and from that I believe that comes the added value on the village level as well. And when I'm thinking my own village just across the lake, we will see some of that village when we drive to the those destinations tomorrow morning. There's one of the biggest fish processing companies called Kylät in that village, and they are having a 20 million euros investment project there at the moment. But it all started from a little smokery in a garage, and now it's on that scale that it's the biggest in Finland, exporting to China. China has been also something that we have been supporting trade links through our local action group. And when I was in Kylät, I remember being very familiar with this African example. We were dealing with Mozambique, and through Mozambique we kind of went to China, and now we are getting the first fruit from this China cooperation. So on the village level, in the company level here. And for me it's kind of, I've been doing leader work for 20 years, but it's kind of a sign that you have to be not expecting results overnight, but ready to step outside the box in new networks. Like Lauri was once saying, that you don't need to know precisely what you are going to get out of those networks when you start, but those outcomes just start coming when you are convinced enough and you try your best in those networks. And for me the best result of this gathering would be that when we are sitting there in the smoke sauna and dipping in the ice hockey and sitting in the hot tube, that we develop these type of new unpredicted partnerships between each other, and nobody knows what will be coming out of them. Maybe another fish processing company.
If you pass on, because I would be interested in the same question from and Laurie and also Joe, you can say a few words. But when you did the competition, like what was your experience? Because you've worked a lot with Leader in the past. Like, did it have a different vibe, or how villages get engaged, or it should be through Leader? I mean, what's your experience with that?
Leader is crucial both to the competition but to the smart villages overall. It's they are a huge animator, but they're also a very strong but neutral link between villages and communities, and that is one aspect that really makes Leader very valuable in the whole context. I've been asked what's the difference between Leader and smart villages, and I dare to say it's a question of scale. It's, if you look at on a strategic level, the Leader strategies, they are local but on an area level, and then smart villages, it's a strategic level on the village level. That's one thing. Another thing that is now emerging and we're really trying to get together now is youth leader in Finland. If the sort of outrageous service promise of Leader in Finland is to be experts in animation, and we have youth leader that should be experts in youth animation. And youth leader in Finland basically means specific funding for small projects done by youth themselves. They can be
or children. Or children.
Yeah, or children. I think the age range is from 13 to 25 or something like that. So they can be small investments, or for a group of youngsters who want to do something, sports equipment, for example, or then they're starting their first business and they need equipment for that. And there we come to the issue of okay, we have these active youth. How do we engage them, or how can we use the Smart Villages theme to involve them in rural development without saying the word rural development, because that will scare them away?
Yeah, well, the issue, I think the one interesting aspect still is what is the link between the leader and the Smart Villages theme. Well, Petri and Sami, and there were others as well, so that was the issue we were thinking last Friday, because our Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry in Finland have started to plan the next program period, and they are organizing workshops. And last Friday there was a workshop. What is the there were village people and leader people and some other managing people. But anyway, and that was the topic. What is the linkage between the leader and the Smart Villages strategy? And I think for me it was interesting discussion. So we started the same issue what we are talking about. What is the Smart Village as itself? Then we spoke about the area where if there should be that kind of a smart village plan or strategy. So what is that area? Is it only one village, or it's like the combination of villages, or whatever? And then we ended up the discussion, what are the tools, or at least what should be the tools inside the leader to promote the actual actions for the smart villages. But I found it interesting, but you can feel, there were Sami and Petri and others, you can comment on that. But I still think it's an issue.
Very good. Kim, you have, yeah.
Yes, hello, I will also say some words about this discussion. I will start. I will be challenging, I will try to be a little bit philosophical as well, more asking questions than giving answers, because that's dangerous. That's dangerous, but I will start by perhaps challenging the relation between people, villages, and all the rest of the organization. I suppose Brexit was the bell, bling, 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 for Commission, the NRD, and national administrations. Let's say, oh, should we connect more with people? Should we connect more and more with villages? Things start to happen inside the house and also at the national government level. Should we connect more? Well, I'm challenging here a little bit, because I'm saying that, well, the Commission has not been very connective to the local level. I will challenge also leader, whether you like or not. I've been a leader manager. That leader has not been connecting with people at local level so well. I am not saying that all of leaders are not, but there are programs in leader which are only about natural parks. There are leaders only with what work that municipal administrations are working with. So there can be a leader policy if you want to. We were talking about this in Evora as well, connecting with, getting closer with citizens. If the leader policy does not have an element of really connecting with villages, then the leaders are not there if the national leaders had to do otherwise. So should there be a policy, a direct policy for villages or smart villages? And I don't know if that is what they're thinking inside the Commission, but if it's the case, then there should be some tools or means to do it in that way. Thank you also for the Irish about this definition question, because words are words and acts are acts. So if we start talking about local level, what we do in villages, the local people will do well, even without those policies and activities, they will do things in the village. And what Lauri said, the sense of community, it's there. They are doing things. They don't even know about Europe in some cases. So in some cases they don't even know about leader. There are people in many countries that are working without knowing about this, and they are very, very good stuff. So it's kind of challenging. If the European Union or Europe wants to make some kind of policy or activate about this, then they should connect and try really to go for it. And not just talk about, okay, leader, CLLD, but work together with us to make that policy for the village level work. Thanks.
Let me just take an order now, because I want to pass it to Joe, because he's sitting here and I want to hear your Irish opinion. And then I go, if Kari, you still want Ave and Juha-Matti, yeah, because you all wanted to add. Do you want to add anything, or from your perspective to this, because you also work with Leader a lot, but you're also an association?
Well, I suppose the large experience of our member organisations is that they have a multiplicity of programs, so they're able to operate an integrated approach. But I'd like to, I suppose, endorse what Laurie said about two particular qualities of Leader. One is its animation capacity, and the other is its independence or neutrality. And I think the animation capacity is what allows a lot of these initiatives to turn from an idea on paper into something real on the ground. And if we don't have the capacity to work with people, over the break we had some sharing of Irish and Finnish examples of trying to assist older people to spend their later years in their own homes. And there's technological solutions to doing that, but we have particular difficulty in deploying those technological solutions. So technology is there, but we haven't managed to get them into people's homes in an integrated way, because that is it is rolled out in a medicated healthcare setting in Ireland rather than in a community setting. So it's that lack of animation capacity has not allowed us to solve that problem. So that's the only reflection I'd have on that particular point.
Great. Kari, you want to add still what you want to say? No? Okay. Ave?
Thank you, Kim, for a very good point. And the first part is that time to time all good systems need some refreshment, reloading, restart or whatever, about commission, about leader and other things. But the point I wanted to say is that I think that more than ever we need multi-funding here. Is coming, because if leader is for agricultural fund, their smart villages has no limit, because we're talking here more and more about social services, cultural services, whatever, regional things and so on. So just short point, I think.
It's good to continue what Ave said, because I think we should have smart tools in order to help villages to be smarter, whatever is the aspect. And I think that's there you are needed. The villages, what kind of tools you need in order to be smarter. And I think that's one topic of very, that I found it interesting. Should we have a special smart tools, for example, under the leader? And CLLD, I do agree, it's very important that we should have a CLLD in order to cover all issues. One throwback to the Friday discussion, because one interesting aspect was that could we have, European Innovation Partnership? So should we have that kind of tool under the leader in order to develop smart villages? In European Innovation Partnership for in a small scale for smart villages. I think that was a very interesting one aspect which was raised on last Friday discussion.
Patrick.
Yeah, the Friday question was quite straightforward, limited to leader role in promoting smart villages. And I think we did some very good workshops there. The Finnish ministry and MA always wants to start very early when we are now planning the next CAP strategy for continental Finland. And I think we could get some very nice methods and possible future tools out of this discussion. But also related to networks and how we can get more value both from the existing networks and then from the future networks. What I have seen in Finnish village movement, and it wasn't really easy for us because our roots are so deep in the rural soil and in the village development and all this, was quite a hard decision to involve urban neighborhoods. But we have been learning so much already in this little short time from the urban community development methods, including digitization, crowdfunding and things like this. And my question would be to my Irish colleague, because I know that in ILDN you have had urban partnerships longer time on the board. That how do you see there in rural development context the benefit of being in the same network, and how in our smart village initiative and network we could also think that we are involving some urban neighborhood activists and smart people in the network.
Do you want me to take it?
Yeah.
The urban-rural relationship within a single network is probably a very complicated question that's taken probably a decade to bed down. So previous to 2010 there was 3 networks for such organizations, 1 for social inclusion in rural areas, 2 for the leader companies, and 3 for social inclusion in the urban areas. And they've all been rolled up into one network to deal with local development issues. And I think just the summary point would be, like any amalgamation of companies and businesses, social service organizations, it takes some bedding down, and there has been some tensions. But now when we have conversations, we have a quarterly council meeting for 2 days, so it's 8 days a year when everybody comes together. So it's quite a lot. So the focus is now on more on best practice sharing rather than on policy, which is a signal of the emerging maturity. I think that people are all facing in the one direction, rather than previously they were kind of looking at each other to see what were the points in common. So I think if you work at it, the bottom-up approach applies in both areas, and if that's the philosophy that both urban and rural are coming with, I don't think it will be problematic, but it has to come. I suppose it's eased when you have a wraparound service that's more than one program.
Okay. Any comments on the points heard from Kara?
I'm taking what Juha-Matti said. Taking on what Juha-Matti said about the urban innovation partnerships. There's also, I don't know, they are enemies, but anyway, there's smart city development going on as well. And maybe we could learn from that. And maybe we would need innovation partnerships which are only local development, smart local development, not emphasis on the rural, because it's sometimes it's with rural, it's some people, especially in the cities, think that it's something to do with agriculture or something to do with old-fashioned things and things like that. Of course, we know it's not like that, but anyway, we should have a broader view when we are looking for the best practices.
Okay. Any other comments from any of you on what you heard? No one? Yeah.
I have a question for the audience.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm a little bit of a technology freak. How many of you are afraid of how much Google, Facebook, etc., these giants know about you?
Who are afraid?
Yes, if you are afraid of how much they know about you, It's really interesting because I would really like an integrated solution that knows everything about me.
We'll go for it.
that will know when I leave my house. But I would need to build an element of trust into it.
Yes, yes.
But not trust in the technology, but trust amongst my neighbors. So that if I, for example, give permission to my neighbors to see whether I'm at home or not, whether I'm at a specific location that is tied to them, where they have items that I can transport to them if they have given me permission. Because I think fear of how much they know about us, I think it's a battle that we've lost years ago. We still see people posting these, okay, from this day on Facebook will not be allowed to see this and that, and they have no permission. If you're afraid of that, don't go on Facebook. It's a choice, but it's
not a choice.
Well, some it's not.
Would it be for the purpose of using the information that might feel fair?
Yeah, that's another question. Then we come into the ethics and everything, and yes, but still, fake news or let's say how the presidential election was affected allegedly by Facebook statistics and everything. I understand that, but on a level I don't, because I wasn't affected, even though I followed it really carefully. I'm not allowed to vote there, of course, so my vote was not affected, but I just find it baffling. And for me, that is scary. But on a personal level, my photos, all my posts and everything, I don't care. Just
very philosophical.
But that comes into trust, because we're talking about digitalization, we're talking about technology, we're talking about creating all these new solutions, and then when they're ready, we will say, no, I'm not going to use that because they're going to know where I am. And that's, you're going to need a massive change of attitude.
I think what Laurie's saying is actually really interesting, but if I look at the network in our village, and who knows what about everyone else in the village, Facebook hasn't got enough space on it to get all that inside the on it. Yes? Lorna, who is our community councillor, just rules it as she knows everything. Other things we do is, our office, because we live and work in the village, is the post office in effect. Every time somebody orders something on the internet, it gets delivered to our village. There's only one family ever there, me and Susan working in the office, so it's a European network for rural development, stroke, receiving office for the village. So all that kind of stuff works, and that is about trust, and there's a lot of trust and interaction there. Can I just make, there's one thing that came out from, I think it was Kim said, somebody else, I think it was Kirsten kind of suggested, that in some ways smart villages is ENRGs involved in the policy. We're not. Our job is to try to make the connections, try to help this thing to work better. We're not purveyors of the policy. We're trying to help the policy be implemented in a simpler and more sensible way. And that includes some of the points that people were making about potential multi-funding, how the different bits might fit together, how it might work on the leader, and so on. And I'm hearing all that, and I'm thinking, geez, I'm applying a frame of simplification to this. How do we make this thing actually work? Because we've struggled with it in leader, and we're taking it down to another level where leader should be working. I'm thinking, how do we get this simple enough that it works, and how do we get that independence that we hoped to have in leader at the start, and it kind of worked because we got block grants, and it was easier to do it then. But we kind of lost along the way. So I'm a bit concerned with it. That's a negative message to send, but it's something we need to work on. It's something we need to get sorted out. as soon as you take the funding of these initiatives and the bureaucracy that goes with them, you'll start to get into some difficulties. We have to be realistic about that. And therefore, the work on how do we get the enabling right is important. Therefore, I would ask you to all contribute to that, because the voices from the bottom about sorting this out and getting it simple are really important.
Thank you.
I think it'll be really good if Smart Village can be made simple. But gosh, would I want that somebody also want leader to be simple? Because that's what we've been asking for years and years. And that could be, maybe you can do it at the same time. So yeah, I'll welcome that. Thank you.
All right, I think we are closing this discussion here. I think it was just a kind of teaser to start up the discussion about this topic. What I hear, I think it happened already at the European level, that it's recognized that leader is one of the key tools. I think one of the biggest assets in it, what I hear also from discussions over beers just during this last day, is that it's animation capacity when it's there. I mean, one thing is, I think it's a super important thing, but we also have to acknowledge that in some countries, or not all the legs may have the animation capacity to help villages, and I think that's why we invited our Latvian colleagues, because it's super important that legs start to think about that, how they can support villages, but we also have to acknowledge that in some countries and some legs may not have the capacity, and that's your point, Kim, I think, what you were making. I would just pick that idea, but Juha-Matti, you were saying as well, that leader is one potential tool to facilitate the process. There may be others, and I think we should need to be open-minded and in that sense renew what you were all saying in certain ways. So we need to find ways to find new tools, maybe the EIP, the innovation partnership, or any other tools to start this animation process. And I'd just like to conclude with one more thought that we've been discussing with colleagues here. It's been an issue, and I think we will continue discussing this with members tomorrow. Like, who should be the members, for instance, such a network like the Smart Village Network? And there were voices like, for instance, if you involve villages and just the village mayor, they may see it a tool and it may get individual, or it may get even corrupted in certain ways, because actually the community engagement and the animation aspect may be missing. So it may not solve the problem just to involve villages on an individual, or I don't know, represented by their mayors. So I think there is one interesting thing, and what came out from the discussion which we had with some colleagues, Geza and Livio and others, that actually this kind of capacity, maybe the local heroes or some people who really can generate a process of bringing together stakeholders when it's really community engagement and so on, we need to try to find those players. And what I heard over the days, that it really may be a wide range of players in different countries. It may be quite different from one country to another who can fulfill that role. But just to conclude, I think we should be open-minded and look for different mechanisms, tools, and different processes to be able to connect to communities, and what are the best ways to connect back to them. Sorry if it was a bit arbitrary, but that was my message, to take away some of the messages that I took away. So with this, I would like to thank all of your contribution on this, and we want to conclude this day with a bit of active discussion around small tables, not small tables, but we arranged the tables in a way that you can sit around them and discuss certain topics. I would like to introduce you the last session, and then I think Petri will say how to use the sauna, how to go for the field trip tomorrow, so then some exciting bits are coming as well. But if I may just move to the last session, which would be about very specific themes and topics. As I said, on the registration form we received some very nice ideas, and it's again an experiment for me, because I don't know all the faces, but I know Yanis, I don't know where he's sitting in the room. Oh, here you are, okay. So I will tell you, so essentially there are 4 topics mentioned on the sheet. But what we'd like to do is I kind of grouped the second one, digital education, social entrepreneurship, smart home care, because looking at the description, it's quite the social angle. I know it covers different aspects, but it's both projects were like about those parts. The smart home care, who will present it? Anyone? I forgot. I will check who is the presenter for that. Anyway, so essentially what I'd like to do is that we will do 2 half-an-hour sessions. We will have 3 tables. So there will be where John and other colleagues from Greece sitting. That will be a corner for the green villages kind of corner. There will be a corner here which will be about the social aspects and the smart home care and how you do use digital technology, how you engage elderly people. And back in that table, there will be about local products, tourism, some economic development side, yeah? And you will be able to choose 2 topics. So there will be 2 rounds of half-an-hour discussion around the tables, and we will shout when the discussion is over. So essentially, you can choose freely. So when we say it's over, then you move to another table, or you stay at the same table. Normally, we could have 2 presentations at each table. I would like to ask if Anneli is here. Yeah, great. Because you can present maybe the Green Village idea, and Geza will say a few words about his project on circular economy. So those will be the green corner, yeah? First half an hour with Anneli, and she will tell in a minute what she's talking about. Second half an hour with Geza. And then you are free to stay at that table or move to others. So we are doing it so that you don't have to sit there for an hour. And it's just an introduction. And what we are interested in is like what ideas you have around that topic, how you can connect to the idea that you heard, and what potential joint actions the people sitting here could take on those. It can be, so try to think freely, like what cooperation opportunities are there. Leader TNC is one, but obviously there may be others. So that would be the green corner, and I will call you in a minute to say a few words. So then on the social side, if I may call it social, you can correct me, Yanis, if it's not. Yes, I think it was maybe the Irish colleague. Smart home care, who put that project through? I'm really sorry, my memories are, maybe the Scottish colleague is not here, is he? Okay. We will think about one aspect there. I can also introduce a topic that we came across recently. And the last one, we've got 2 colleagues, Christos and Sari, who will present. They present their own tools that they developed, which is connected to tourism and local products. And each of them, so we will start with Christos, first half around, and then a second half will be introduced by Sari to say about their digital tools. So what I'd like to do now is that I invite all 5 speakers, and really just in 2 minutes, like 2-3 sentences, tell what you will talk about, so people can decide where to start, yeah? So I just try to repeat. So green table there, first Anneli, then Geza. Local tourism table there, first Christos, then Sari. And the social with Yanis, maybe twice, we will sort it out, yeah? So if you stay for a second seated, please sit back. Geza, you can come because you will say. Anneli, if you come, and say just 2 sentences what your project idea is about, yeah? So that others can decide where to go. Can you just listen for 1 more second? Karin, sorry, can you cooperate after over it? So Geza.
So our solution is a sort of bioeconomy, circular economy unit, amalgamating several leading technology like aquaculture, intensive aquaculture, renewable energy, insect breeding, and hydroponics, which is a horticultural modern production system, into one unit to provide a pilot scheme for young people coming to the area to earn their living, because in Hungary there is no land available, because big farms grab all sorts of land.
Okay. That's the right length. So if you say 2 words, and I will explain more in details in the corner. This is just a taster, okay? So to
yes, the green villages doesn't mean only the economical or ecological things, but it is pretty much tourist project which we will start in March and April in Harju County in Estonia. And the main idea is for these villages who participate to earn money, not spend the project money. Our project is just a kick or push for these villages who want to become economically independent, to promote some services in there, because villages are green mostly.
Okay, if I maybe Christos first and then Sari.
Yeah, hi, thank
So
you.
we are in that corner now.
My name is Christos, I represent Pro Localis. I'm a local farmer and a local producer, and a year ago I decided to take a step to help my local community, and it scaled up to the stage where I got so much attention that I was able to start helping other local communities. And we created a platform and a mobile application for any village, municipality, to display what's available to be found, and any local producer of food, beverage, handcrafts, art, services to easily get democratic visibility, and through this empower both economic and tourism development. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And Sari?
Yes, I'm Sari Hyvärinen, and I have this service where I help people to start and develop their cottage service. And as that service grew, I found out that there is sort of, at least in Finland, there was no union to or anyone that would promote the high quality cottage service. And as I see, it's very important sort of asset those houses or cottages that are empty, or rooms in rural areas that are empty there. Then they can be very important assets to cottages, as to get tourists to stay overnight, and all those added values that come with them, with local products and services that can be provided to those visitors. So we started as a union a year and a half ago, and here we are sort of networking and trying. We are building some basic elements of villages or other local networks, how it would serve them best to start or develop their cooperation that includes cottage rental and other local services. Thank you.
Okay, so that will be both Christos and Sari, first half an hour, second half an hour. Mari, I remember you cannot escape now. See, I think you were presenting the smart home care, and I'm sorry that it skipped my mind, but then I remembered. So, I'm sorry.
My name is Mauri. I'm from Lakerta-Hettemäki, from northern part of Finland, about 400 kilometers from here. It's not in the north, it's in the middle of Finland. It's a little bit more colder or more snow, but it's in the middle of Finland. So I'm a director in that association. We are thinking about this smart village in the local level. What can we do, and what is smart and what is not smart? We have been working with old people about 20 years. We do snow dwelling, low dwelling in the summertime, little renovation and that kind of things. But we have noticed these people are coming, the physical situation is coming more bad all the time, but they don't want to go to hospital, they want to live at home. So we have been thinking of what can we do that they can live home as long as possible. And like we have talked about Joe, what they have done in Ireland, they have some problems and they have some techniques already. But the question is, who is going to pay for this? We must do cooperation with local universities and people who make development with these things. Kajaani University of Applied Sciences have had a couple of projects on that area. They have solved the most of these issues which are problems, and I think that we must have a good cooperation with Kajaani University of Applied Sciences. That's the main thing, I think. But
Maureen, sorry, you can, because you will need to introduce it to the table as well. So let them be very curious.
Okay, okay. I'll tell more about the table.
Exactly.
Then.
If
What
you
are
go
we going
to
to
that
do?
table, exactly.
Yes.
That's great. So very shortly, Yanis as well, and then you can decide which discussion you'd like to join. Yeah.
My name is Jānis. I'm representing Latvia local action group Saldus, and at a very local level, where I'm representing my village, we have had an idea to some kind of use of buildings which we have now more or less empty, and we decided that we could develop idea about a center of elderly people, and so it could be so that basically for local people who could stay close to their area where they have lived before, and also we could provide such a service from other municipalities of such a kind of people. And therefore I would like to discuss such approach maybe you have had before, and also the best way how we could develop it in our village.
Okay, perfect. So the first half an hour starts now. So we start here with Mauri presenting in details his project. We start on the green initiative. We said I think Anneli starts there first, half an hour, and we start there with Christos. So the point is really that you also bring and add your expertise. Don't just listen, but exchange, and my colleagues will help. Yeah. Thanks for those who followed us on live stream. We will stop it now.